The last 2 seasons on the grind, we've been very fortunate to have ProDrive as our boat and motor sponsor. And I can't talk enough about how well these boats operate. As a duck hunter in tough conditions, you need the best of equipment. We're out there in well below freezing, 10-degree weather. You need a boat and a motor that are gonna get the job done for you. What KP and Brian are putting together here at ProDrive, it's something special.
It's a lifestyle for the rough and rugged kind. The tougher the game, the longer the pain, the better the ride. We do what we can to stay ahead, cause the modern world wants us left for dead. You better believe as long as we breathe, the sun's gonna rise. We dig real deep, try a little harder, buckle down tight, go a little farther so we can look back and be proud of what we've done. Sometimes we gotta work under the gun, don't sweat the battle, make sure the war's won. Keep on keeping on, cause the bottom line, it's a labor of love we call the grind.
The Grind is brought to you by
Canadian Waterfowl Supplies, decoys and gear for marsh and field.
Lucky Duck Premium Decoys, Masters of Deception. Dakota Decoy, premium gunning decoys for demanding hunters. Wild Ear, custom fit hearing enhancement and protection. Rio, the official ammunition of the Grind Waterfowl TV. ProDrive, shallow water outboards. Authentic Wyoming high mountain seasonings. Sitka, specialized outdoor wear and equipment.
Delta Waterfowl, the Duck Hunters Organization.
And these fine sponsors.
Brian and KP Provost grew up outdoors near Lareauville, Louisiana. Both brothers grew up with busy childhoods that were consumed with fishing, hunting, water skiing, and swimming in the South Louisiana swamps, lakes, and bayous. The boys give full credit to their father and his hunting partner, Donald Solar, who was also their uncle and next-door neighbor, for the introduction to the outdoors. Another mentor that kept the passion growing was their father's friend, Mr. Rufus, as the boys called him, a seasoned Cajun who spoke mostly French and grew up in the swamps as a child, gave the boys an opportunity to stay out in the swamps for extended stretches on his houseboat, built of cypress, which he pulled out of the swamp and sawed himself. An intense love and appreciation for the Louisiana Bayou grew inside these two boys. Both Brian and KP were avid hunters, but everything changed forever with an introduction to duck hunting. To this day, duck hunting and the South Louisiana swamps, lakes, and bayous are intertwined into the souls of these two men. As the two brothers from the Louisiana swamps grew up to be men obsessed with reaching any ducks in any part of the swamps, bayous, and marshes, ProDrive boats were born out of necessity. Brian Provost believed there was a demand for a shallow water outboard boat and began perfecting a boat that would work for the shallow bayou waters in the nearby swamps. As Brian and his right-hand man, as they call him, Kevin Ledford, built ProDrive from the ground up, his brother KP soon joined and business grew. A labor of love from the beginning, the Provost brothers, along with Kevin Ledford, were able to integrate their machinist and business backgrounds with their love for the outdoors. Located in a small community in southern Louisiana where everybody knows everyone, ProDrive, along with 3 other offshore boat manufacturers, are present in the small town. You could say building boats is in the soul of every person in town. Brian actually worked as a machinist for the other offshore boat manufacturers, building the propeller shafts for the large offshore vessels built for the oil and gas industry. Brian felt that hunters needed a different type of performance from a shallow water boat. ProDrive Shallow Water Outboards and Boats was born. Brother KP soon joined his brother's business with a business background from Louisiana's offshore oil fields. With different skill sets, the two brothers worked together to build ProDrive into a thriving and successful business that has produced some of the most innovative and advanced shallow water outboards on the water today.
Well, the ProDrive idea was born basically because I was a machinist for quite a few years working for other people, and I started a small machine shop here in the country. I was building rudder shafts, propeller shafts, all kind of boat components for crew boats, and I could relate those parts to smaller boats. And I kind of had the idea to incorporate kind of the long tail concept and an outboard motor into one. I kind of started tinkering in the 90s with the concept and built a few prototypes. They started to work out pretty good, so we really started putting some time into the ProDrive. The concept became a usable, functionable boat motor. We started to use it for hunting, kind of kept it on the down low. But after that first year of using the motors in the marshes and swamps, you know, on our own hunts, we figured we were pretty much ready to get into production. We actually built some prototypes that we could actually demonstrate and brought 4 out to the Louisiana Sportsman Show in 2003. Once we figured we'd get into some kind of production, my brother had wanted to work with me for quite a while, even in a machine shop. He was still with an oil field company. He was going to make a break to get away from there, but it was a big step for him. So we took him in with us and decided to get our motors to that Louisiana Sportsman Show and see what we could do. You know, for a long time, even when I worked in, you know, other machine shops before I started my own, I had an idea of building some kind of shallow water boat. Okay, and I kept thinking about combining an outboard and possibly a mud boat or a long tail. So I kept thinking this outboard gearbox has to be out of the water, and the propeller shaft has to go in at an angle where we could deflect grass and sticks or logs, whatever, off of the bottom of it, and they go around the prop. So I started thinking, I really need to build a gearbox that is above the water, and instead of running out at a 90, it needs to run into the water at 30 degrees, 25 degrees. So I started thinking, how can I get this gearbox to run above the water, but the propeller to run deep enough to still get good performance? And I started thinking with surface drive, we could possibly run the propeller maybe up to half of the diameter of circulation running above the surface of the water. So I kind of centered up the propeller with the bottom of the boat and brought the gearbox up to where it was just above the bottom of the boat. And then after that, I had found some gears that I'd put together in a gearbox and achieved a surface drive, shark tail outboard with a 1-to-1 ratio. As the surface drive propeller rotates, it's partially out of the water, so it gives the prop some air area that it can actually achieve a higher RPM, gives it a little bit of open area there. On a 1-to-1 ratio, the propeller and engine turn the same speed. There's no real gear ratio advantage in a 1-to-1 compared to just a straight drive. So having the gearbox there, I started thinking, I said, we can actually change that ratio and bring about whatever reduction we can to get that engine to perform better and get a larger prop, more pitch, and we started experimenting with props and ratios. So I came up with a 1.5-to-1 ratio. We get more RPM on the engine, less on the prop. We can turn a much larger prop than we could when we were straight 1-to-1. Also, pivot point to the tail end of the shaft, where the prop is, we kept that pretty sharp to where steering the motor in the water is easier than the longer drives. And then I started thinking about electric clutches. So I actually called the clutch company and asked them for a clutch with a flange. And the clutch that I needed was already in production. The electric clutch was put into the shallow water mud motor. It was the first one. The next thing we did was a on-the-fly trim, we'd call it. We had a little hand wheel that we could turn, and it actually adjusted the trim of the motor. You can adjust it on the run. So with the adjustable hand wheel trim, we could actually set the propeller and the trim exactly where we wanted it. We could get the boat to run optimal speed. It was the first one on a mud motor that could be adjustable. The manual trim was pretty much a standard for about 2 years, but we started getting demand for center console, remote console boats. So we went to electric power trim. Console models had them. Early on, when I started out with the ProDrive, reverse was always on my mind. The simplest thing I could see was to turn the actual motor completely around. So I started thinking, if I could get this lower unit to separately turn, power head end to stay in forward, that would solve my problem about turning the whole engine around. Got back to the drawing board and built a swivel connection between the power head and lower unit. And we made a ratchet system that we could actually ratchet the lower unit around. So actually being able to swivel the lower unit around, keeping the power head forward, and engaging the prop, we're actually pushing as much force as we are forward in reverse now. And we're actually direct the water under the boat, and we can pretty much pull the boat off of dry ground as long as the motor's in the water. When you get in the bad stuff and you're stuck, this is the only one that's going to get you out of that. And we have customers or potential customers that come in and ask, what are the advantages of our motor over any other? And we tell them, look, if you're really thinking about one or the other and you want to make sure you get the right one, let's go for a ride. And usually on the runs, when we get into bad stuff or stuck, the gear ratio that we have pushes very hard, and the reverse is unmatchable. And we have enough confidence to let the customers see it and let them make their own choice.
We talked about how the boats were constructed. We use 5086 marine grade aluminum, which is the toughest on the market. 1x2 longitudinal extrusion ribs. They run completely through the boat from the front of the deck to the back. And what longitudinal ribs do is that when you're going over stumps, rocks, logs, things of that nature. On other boats, they'll have the ribs running across the boat and they'll bend. Well, this keeps them from doing that and keeps your bottom of your boat flat. The second thing is you're gonna do the 2x2, that rectangular tube, the 2x2, you're gonna go across and you're gonna weld those on top of those longitudinal ribs to give it that extra strength. Those run completely to the side of the boat. For the strength, you do your 2x2 tubing. You go across and you go all the way to the side of the boat. That strengthens and holds down your floor. This crimp on the side is for strength as well. Once you put a crimp in that 5086, it strengthens up this side, and then your 1x2s finish up that strength. The second thing is what we did a couple of years ago, we always had a strong gunnel system, but it was very typical, and there was no way to hook on to any accessories. We decided that a T-rail system inside the gunnel would make for, the possibilities are limitless. We buy things from Ram Mount, we make accessories, we make removable grab bars, bow eyes, rope cleats. We make all these accessories that fit in this T-rail system, and you can put them literally anywhere along your boat. These boats are custom built for shallow draft, and shallow draft has everything to do with mud motors. When you're dealing with these mud motors, you're limited to 37 horsepower. So you're gonna wanna get the most out of that boat. So in doing that, we decided the shallow draft boat would have been the best thing to do. We keep the boats flat, we keep them long, you don't go too narrow with them. The other key to this is that once you keep them flat, they're not gonna draft as much water. Ideally on a flat bottom boat, you want the boat to float as high as possible. All right, so what we did, we kept the bottom flat. Typically you would go straight up here, but that made it very tricky in turns. In other words, the happy sacrifice on that was to do what we call a triple taper charm. Now what this does, and these tapers all start narrowing as they go toward the front of the boat till they get to the rake. So as you're progressing along the boat, you're getting rid of it, so you can keep your buoyancy. Now what this does though, it helps you turn. The minute you slow down, it's gonna go ahead and start grabbing this water in this area right here, and you're gonna be able to turn versus sliding. Very important.
Mid-2016, we'll be coming out with this new tiller handle. It's kind of a multifunction tiller handle. All the controls are in the tiller handle itself. Instead of having the control boxes that we had before, everything's more centered toward the operator conveniently. Power trim is on the tip of the handle that can be operated with the thumb while the throttle's being run. You slide the hand back, forward neutral buttons right here near the operator. Momentary engagement for off on the clutch is right near the operator. In reach, really easy to find. Power trim is also, there's an option here for another switch. If the guy is actually running the boat in reverse or actually working his way through the weeds and he's using the grab handle or turned around this way, he doesn't have to reach and grab the power trim up in the front. He has another option right here to trim up and down the motor, because the power trim we have is pretty quick. It can get the motor out of the grass, back in the grass, out of mud, back in mud real quick without the operator having to grab onto the motor, pull up on it. It's rugged enough to use up and down as many times as the customer needs during operation. It's not something that's gonna burn up over too much use. And a big percentage of our customers have been wanting a floating tiller handle. Actually, sometimes there's an advantage to actually not floating and being able to hold the motor down in the bad stuff. So yeah, the tiller handle floats up when the motor strikes logs or objects, stuff like that. The handle can actually, float up with the guy's hand, or if it's his legs under it, when it happens to hit his leg, it's just gonna float up. This tiller handle also has an adjustment for operator convenience, depending on how high the guy's sitting in the boat, his height, or how he likes to run the boat. So this adjustment allows the operator to change the angle. He's not fixed, he can adjust it to his height or his seating option, or if he's standing. So he's pretty much not limited here. So this tiller handle setup, grab bar, and brush guards are fit on a 37 EFI engine, Briggs & Stratton Vanguard. The 37 EFI and the Briggs & Stratton 36 carbureted engine are the same block. So this will fit on any Vanguard engine that we produced since 2006.
ProDrive shallow water outboards have been innovating cutting-edge motor technology for duck hunters. ProDrive is credited for creating the first ever surface-driven mud motor, along with the only full-power reverse and many more innovative firsts. ProDrive continues to push innovation and technology, striving to create the perfect duck hunting boat. Brian Provost and the ProDrive team are inventors, manufacturers, and outdoorsmen that brought to the public the very first shallow water outboard for hunting, fishing, and commercial purposes. Since the beginning, ProDrive set out to manufacture the most innovative and best performing shallow water boats for their fellow outdoorsmen. This attention to detail to build a quality product is a promise that ProDrive continues to keep.
So right now what happens, we have absolutely no wind. The birds were in both sides of the field yesterday, so we set up exactly like how we scout, but now what we're finding on a couple flocks is that they're wanting to finish on the back side of us because there's no wind, so therefore they can just do whatever they want to do. So we're pulling the decoys out right now and we're getting them out here so that we don't have to worry about them landing back on this side. So we need the birds in front of us, not behind us.
When I was a kid and started hunting, if you shot a Canada goose, you couldn't get to town fast enough with that goose. You're almost legend for killing a goose. What I've seen since I've started hunting is the evolution of the Canada goose. They're almost a nuisance now. Well, they are a nuisance in cities. Everyone has theories on what's happened. My theory is a Canada goose will nest anywhere. If you put a baby swimming pool out in your yard and leave it long enough with water, that Canada geese are going to find it and nest. But just the evolution of Canada geese, they're everywhere. They're in the cities, you know. We've got non-migrating geese now. The big cities, the residents, you know, they have a resident flock of geese that never leave, and they become a nuisance. So there's residence seasons, early seasons, trying to thin out the geese. You know, when we were kids, one Canada goose made you a hero. With the evolution of the Canada goose, it's created hunting opportunities all across the country that guys haven't had before. There's geese in every state. Ducks definitely migrate. Geese are tending to not migrate. So what it's done is opened up hunting avenues for guys all across the United States. Every state has Canada geese.
So when I think about the Canada goose and just how it's evolved over the years, and when I was a kid, when I was with my dad, you know, maybe we'd see 3, 4, 5 flocks, you know, back when I was younger. But as I got older, it was getting more and more. And then resident goose season started to come in Michigan. And that was, you know, 15 days in September. And then we got 30 more days now in January and February. And now that, you know, I'm down in Illinois, I see more birds than I've ever seen before. And it's crazy. The migration, I feel, that has shifted a little bit. Birds don't move as south as far. You think guys down in southern Illinois, they're shooting more specks now. It's just everything has evolved more. There's more of a population.
Kevin shooting.
Good shot.
Very nice shot. Good shot, buddy.
Probably could have called it a little bit sooner for you, couldn't I?
Good shot, Kevin. That's a good shot.
So as opportunity grows, as far as bird population rises and we get good hatches and stuff like that, one of the toughest things is actually now for me is getting permission. There's more people hunting, I feel, in my area. So, you know, and again, then there's clubs, you know, guys buy in cheaper, and then they're able to gain access to an abundance of land, you know, and then you got guys like me that, you know, you go out and you try to get a couple of fields here and there, or, you know, I even do some leasing and stuff like that. So It has its challenges in certain areas. You can travel to Canada and the farmers are awesome up there. You can go up there and basically knock on a door and get permission. Now, I go into Illinois, it's very, very tough. So again, as a waterfowler, I strongly recommend trying to travel a little bit, see what's out there, use our show as a guide, start getting on forums, ask questions, and allow yourself to see new and exciting places.
Well, it's the end of day 3 in Montana. Ted worked his tail off for us here. We had a good Canada shoot. We ran the Yellowstone River today. Everyone got scared. We got to run some rapids in a mud boat, which was interesting. The old ProDrive did good. We're about to load things up, head east on I-90. I'm gonna try and get Mike to let me stop and actually go through the Battle of the Little Bighorn site. I think there's cool stuff there, so we're about to roll.
Visit our website, www.thegrindwaterfowl.com, where you will find past episodes as well as tips and tactics from the boys here at The Grind. Follow The Grind on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube.